Hello everyone. It's hard to imagine that, in the 21st century, with nearly 8 billion people living on this planet, there is still a place that remains unexplored or beyond the reach of humans. It seems impossible, but the truth is, such a place exists. It's North Sentinel Island in India. This is one of the very few unexplored places. The only thing we have in common with this island and the rest of the world is that we all share the same planet. Located in the Andaman Islands in the Bay of Bengal, there is an island with an area of only 60 square kilometers. This island is a sovereign territory under the protection of India. From high above, it has the shape of a tilted eagle with beak pointing to one side. The tropical rainforest covers the surface of the island, making it appear as a dense green without any clue of what lies within. In 1771, on the ship Diligent of the East India Company, Captain John Ritchie was the first to discover Sentinel Island, but his ship only passed by without stopping because the coral reefs surrounding the island would pose a great danger if approached closely. When he returned to London, Captain John Ritchie reported the location of that island to the Royal Navy of England to add it to the map. However, due to its small size, so no one paid attention to it. Nevertheless, this captain still called this island is Sentinel. This name was passed on by the captains of the East India Company, and gradually, it became the official name of this island. This island is the home of the Sentinel tribe, an isolated tribe from the outside world. They refuse any contact with outsiders, and are extremely hostile to any contact from the outside world. This may be the only tribal civilization on this planet that is not disturbed by the outside world, and still remains in a primitive stage. They still live and survive through hunting, gathering, using bows and arrows, and no signs of agriculture, but there are signs of metal and fire. The only thing related to human civilization is the iron arrows, crafted by the Sentinelese people from pieces of steel from sunken ships. A report states that they have been isolated from modern humans for around 60,000 years, and their population is estimated to be around 40 and 500 people. Unlike other tribes, their language is completely incomprehensible to the outside world. It's extremely unique and seems unlike any other language of humanity. According to people who met them, their language consists of sounds like a-on-oo. Based on the logs of the captains, we can understand somewhat about their lifestyle. Their main food sources are coconuts, birds, fish, and reptiles. Seafood can be cooked or eaten raw. There are very few images of this tribe, mostly taken from above or offshore, because they fiercely resist anyone trying to approach the island. This tribe welcomes visitors or victims of shipwrecks and plane crashes with bows and arrows. In general, they will attack, and attack. They even attack helicopters with bows and arrows. In the past, explorers have tried many times to set foot on this island, but almost have failed. The Indian government believes this island doesn't need the intervention of modern civilization, so they declared a ban and didn't allow anyone to approach within 5 kilometers of the island. On paper, this island belongs to India, but Indian authorities accept the islanders' desire for self-determination and limited their oversight. Island residents are allowed to kill non-tribal people without prosecution. Therefore, it can be assumed that this island is a sovereign territory under the protection of India, or in other words, a land that India does not want to approach. The first people to observe this island were the British. The earliest contact of modern humans with this island was probably in the late 17th century. At that time, an Indian merchant ship veered off course and collided with the coral reefs surround Sentinel Island. At least 100 passengers survived the accident, and they continued to explore the island, unaware that a hostile tribe would attack them as soon as they arrived. After that, dozens of Sentinelese people on the island used bows and arrows to attack the crew members, and the group of passengers began to defend themselves with sticks and stones, while the captain sought help and contacted a nearby naval ship. Finally, the passengers were rescued in a state of shock and fear. In 1880, a Royal Navy officer named Vidal Maurice visited this island, but they were unsuccessful because the inhabitants here had fled. Later, the expedition encountered a family consisting of an elderly indigenous couple and 2 children, sitting huddled under a tree. Immediately, they arrested the whole family and put them on the ship, transferring them to Port Blair, the capital of the Andaman Islands. Despite Maurice's group's attempts to entice them with signals, the 4 indigenous people still refused to wear clothes, not eat British food, and only ate raw fish. Due to the language barrier, the exploration team couldn't gather any information from these tribespeople. 3 months later, the elderly couple died due to pneumonia. Finally, Vidal Maurice decided to take 2 children on the boat, with some gifts like knives, mirrors, colored threads, candy, and release them back to Sentinel Island, with hope this gesture of goodwill would help avoid any confrontations as they continued their survey of this island. Until now, there has been only one successful encounter between modern humans and the people of this tribe. In 1967, anthropologist Triloknath Pandit, after a long struggle to set foot on this island. When he was assigned the task of studying the lives of the island inhabitants, he and his colleagues took more than 20 years to persuade the tribe to lower their guard and welcome visitors in peace. This process was slow but steady, and for Pandit, each meeting was a new breakthrough. Before attempting to approach this tribe, Pandit sought advice from the Indian government. He disagreed with the use of violence and carrying weapons as before. Therefore, he studied a gentle way to get acquainted with the indigenous people on the island, and he thought of giving gifts by throwing items into the sea for the waves to carry to the shore, so the tribe on the island could receive them. One of the gifts they sent was coconuts and bananas, and it was surprising when the indigenous people came to pick them up as a gesture of acceptance. A few years later, a group of anthropologists wanted to make a documentary film about this island, but upon arrival, they were greeted with a barrage of stones, arrows, and spears thrown towards their boat. Therefore, they fled to the southern part of the island, gave up, and the documentary film was never completed. Several months later, some Muslim prisoners escaped to this island, but all they were killed by the local indigenous people with throat cuts. Some anthropologists and television channels, including National Geographic, tried to land on the island to establish friendly relations, but no exceptions. They were attacked with bows and arrows. The director of National Geographic even had an arrow lodged in his leg. In 2006, when 2 Indian fishermen's boats drifted uncontrollably onto the island, they were killed by the local inhabitants, and their bodies were taken onto the boats. The Indian Coast Guard sent a helicopter to try to recover the bodies, but they were attacked by the local people with bows and arrows and had to give up. The most famous attack occurred in 2018, when a 26-year-old American missionary named John Allen Chau many times tried to land on the island despite warnings. He wanted to spread the love of God to the people on the island. Unfortunately, after fulfilling his wish to set foot on the island, he was killed by a sharp arrow shot from the beach. To protect the last remaining primitive tribe on this planet, the missionary's body was left on the island, where he tried to evangelize. The United States government declared that no one would be charged. However, India has increased vigilance on the island to prevent curious individuals from attempting to land on this island. This seemingly ordinary island is truly a deadly threat. We have no right to force the people here to change themselves, so the death of those who attempt to set foot on the island cannot be blamed on anyone. No matter how cruel they are, there will be no law to punish them, unless one day they invade other islands and pose a threat to civilized human life. A tribe on an island that doesn't want to have contact with modern civilization, or perhaps they don't understand anything about civilization and they see that as uncivilized. Thank you for following this story, the story of the isolated island from human civilization. I am Honey Badger. If you have any more information about this island, share it in the comments section, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to receive the latest videos. Now, goodbye and see you in the next videos.